Welcome back to the channel. Side Hustle Cinema here. Thanks for clicking on this video. And today we're going to be doing a review of Matrix Resurrections. It's going to be a spoiler-free review, although I am going to try to help you understand it a little bit better. And if that crosses that spoiler line a little bit, I apologize, but I think it's necessary because, again, you know, the Matrix movies, they're hard to kind of understand. And Part 4 is no different. But I'm not going to give away anything that's, going to ruin the movie for you. I might give away just a tiny little bit to help you understand it a little bit better. And I think that's going to help you enjoy it a little bit more. Right off the bat, I got to say, I like the Matrix franchise. I really do. I liked 1, 2, and 3. Part 1 was, by far the best. It was groundbreaking in a lot of ways, both visually, and it was a good story that really, got you thinking. But it was simple enough that you could understand it. And that's kind of where they went off the rails a little bit with 2 and 3. Was it really got too convoluted. It got way too hard to understand, at least easily, without having to look it up or watch it like 12 times. And it turned a lot of people off. But I hate when people say that parts 2 and 3 sucked. I hate when people say that because it's just not true. They were still really good movies. I mean, some of those scenes in parts 2 and 3 are really amazing. I mean, the highway scene with the ghost twins, that's one of the best scenes in the entire franchise. And when Neo fights like 100, Mr. Smiths out on that playground, that was amazing too. Come on. And part 3 actually had a pretty good story to it. It was kind of like a sci-fi Alamo in a way. You had all those Sentinel robots trying to destroy Zion, and the people in Zion, their whole thing was, just to hold out. If they could hold on, if they could keep fighting, keep defending just long enough that they believed, they had faith that they would be saved. And ultimately they were. But a lot of the other things in those, Matrix sequels, it was just too confusing. It was hard to follow. You did have to see it multiple times. And I hate when movies do that. You shouldn't have to go and see movies multiple times to understand them. That was my problem with Tenet. That's been my problem with a few other movies. And it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to pick up, be able to understand the movie pretty much. You might pick up a few extra things in some other movies that you missed, but you shouldn't have to watch it multiple times just to get the basic understanding of it. And that's where they kind of, failed a lot in those Matrix sequels. Part 4 is not that much different than those Matrix sequels. It's another confusing movie, unfortunately. I really wish they would have streamlined it, made it a little easier to understand. Then they would have to spend less time with all the exposition trying to explain the movie, and they could just play the movie. But it wasn't a bad movie either. It was actually a pretty good movie. I enjoyed Matrix Resurrection. I don't understand it all the way, but I understand it a good bit. And right away, though, I gotta say, this movie looks amazing. This thing was shot in both 6K cameras and 8K cameras. And it shows. This thing is flawless. And I saw it in theaters. And I've watched it pretty much on HBO Max. I've checked it out on there. We went and rewatched a few things. And whether you see it in theaters or you see it on HBO Max, it looks outstanding. I cannot wait for this to come to 4K at the beginning of next year. It is going to look and sound out of this world. It's definitely going to be one of the better looking discs for next year. I can almost go ahead and put it on that list. They're not going to screw this one up. It's going to look good. And that's one of the things that really helps this movie out, is it is fun to watch. It drags at times because they have to explain everything. But when it gets to the action, it's pretty good. So this movie kind of starts, with Keanu Reeves. He's back in the Matrix. He's plugged back in. And now he has these, memories sort of not being in the Matrix. He remembers kind of what happened in those first three movies a little bit. Comes to him in sort of like a dream form, or these, visions and memories that he has, and he's not sure if they're real or not. But it's helped him out a lot in life because he's now turned it into a super successful video game franchise, and then movies were also made. And they talk about Warner Brothers, and it's very meta. And at first I kind of didn't like it, but as the movie went on, it made more sense, and I started to enjoy that aspect of the movie more. There's a lot of things that people are talking about before seeing the movie that they anticipate being an issue. One was Neo's look. He looks a lot like John Wick. And okay, it did bother me. I gotta admit, it did kind of bother me when the movie first started. But that does go away. It goes away, later on in the movie. It doesn't bother me as bad. It just takes a minute to get used to it. Another thing that a lot of people talk about is, well, this one doesn't have, Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus. It's got this new guy. I like the new guy. It actually kind of works. And if you understand the plot, which is kind of hard, and that's one of the things I'm going to help you with, maybe you'll enjoy it too. It's not bad. And I kind of like him. And the whole reason why, Lawrence Fishburne wasn't in the movie, he wasn't asked. He would have been in the movie if they would have wanted him, but that wasn't the story they were trying to tell. And the same goes with Agent Smith. Agent Smith is in this movie as well. He just isn't the same Agent Smith that we know from the other movies. He's now different. So as we know, like from the other Matrix movies, from part 3, when Neo went and talked to the architect, the one who made the who designed the Matrix, that Neo isn't the first, he's not the first one. He was like number, 6 or 7? That others had came before him and ultimately had failed. And the question was he the one that was going to, be the actual one or not? It's part of the mind bender, kind of mind scramble that drives you nuts about the Matrix, is they made it a little too complicated to follow. Well, at the end of, the third movie, both Trinity and Neo are sort of taken by the machines. They're sort of killed by the machines, but they're resurrected by the machines and are plugged back into a new Matrix, a newer, stronger Matrix. And that's where we start part 4 with. And to keep Neo from breaking out of the Matrix this time, they have put Neil Patrick Harris's character, he plays a therapist in there. And he's in there to kind of keep Neo into this new reality. Every time he starts to talk about these memories he has of not being in the Matrix, of being in the real world, Neil Patrick Harris kind of shuts that down. And that's done, on purpose. That's why he's in the Matrix. He's just there to shut Neo down and keep him plugged in. And the same thing goes for the Neo's sort of partner, the guy that he works with, that's the new Mr. Smith, and he's plugged in to the Matrix to keep an eye on Neo and to make sure that he doesn't break out. But that brings us to the new Morpheus, because this Morpheus was put in as an agent, so he's like a Mr. Smith type agent, but he has the understanding of what the what the real world is. He's not entirely plugged in, so that way he could get into the Matrix and try to free Neo and get him out of there. It's super confusing. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's hard to follow. It's really hard to follow, and I don't even know if I'm making it make sense or not. But it's super confusing. And so, with the help of a new character, Bugs, who's a totally awesome character, they're able to hack into the Matrix and are able to try to get Neo out again. So hopefully that's enough. A little bit of that's a spoiler. I'm sorry, but I think it'll help you understand the movies a little bit better if you go in knowing at least that much. Everything else I'm going to keep totally, I'm not going to tell you anymore. That's all I'm going to tell you about about the confusing plot of the movie. I will, however, say that the movie is fun. It's got a lot of good stuff to it. They go back, they show you all these sort of dream sequences, all these scenes that we had seen from the first, especially the first movies, and those are kind of redone. And some of them are memories, some of them are new, and they're just a lot of fun. And the action's amazing. The Matrix effects that we fell in love with from the first movies, those are back. If you see this in theaters, you're going to love the sound that's going on. I mean, this thing it's a banger. And visually, I mean, I told you about the cameras and how this movie was shot. It's stunning. It's a fun movie to watch. It's a fun movie to look at. And as far as the character of Bugs goes, I mean, she's amazing as well. I think you're really going to like her character. And they do all the cool fight stuff that they do, from the first movies that we all fell in love with. So do I recommend going to see this movie? Absolutely. If you enjoyed the first movies, you're going to enjoy this one. If you only liked the first one and you didn't really care for the second and third, I would say go back and watch the second and third one. They're actually not as bad as people say. There's a lot of mob mentality sometimes in the movie community, and people were already, ready to not like this movie. So I expect this to not get many good reviews. I expect a lot of people to dislike. I'm going to get dislikes on this video just because I'm not trashing it. But I'm telling you, it's not that bad. It's just that a lot of people didn't understand the first, the second and third movies, and they're going to have a hard time understanding this one. But even though the movie's a little confusing and hard to understand, there is plenty there to like. So go see it in theaters. Enjoy these awesome visuals. Enjoy the fight scenes, the explosions, the gunfights. Get your tub of popcorn and your gallon of soda and just sit there and have a good time. And I definitely think you'll come away and somewhat enjoying the movie. You may not fully understand, but I think you'll have a good time. Well, anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you're unsubscribed to the channel, I invite you to subscribe. And as always, stay safe, have fun, keep watching those movies. We'll see you on the next one.